Kevin, I'm just wondering, did you see that there was a sideline confrontation that happened between Shador Sanders and Jerry Jeudy? And I know that that's part of football, that those kind of things do happen. But I'm just wondering, what you not only thought of that, but what do you think is kind of going on with Jerry Jeudy in this season where it's just not going for him the way that he would have expected, or that I guess you guys would have expected?
Yeah, I think, like you mentioned, Mary Kay, football is an emotional sport, and certainly you can, when you're a family like we are, you can have your disagreements. Sometimes they're for everybody to see. Sometimes it's behind closed doors, but like a family, we move on, we talk about it, so I'm not worried about it.
The Cleveland Browns' devastating 26-8 loss to the San Francisco 49ers wasn't just another loss in a season full of disappointments. It was the time when the carefully built facade finally fell apart, when it was no longer possible to hide the reality about this broken group. And when Shador Sanders, the rookie quarterback who has been set up to fail from the start, got sick of being polite to the media and decided to tell the truth about what's been going on in Cleveland behind closed doors. What Sanders stated at his post-game press conference wasn't just the usual politically correct or polite things that coaches and athletes say. It was a planned, surgical breakdown of Kevin Stefanski's coaching choices. This is a public indictment of the team's organizational problems and a masterclass in how to call out your coaching staff without using terms that could get you fined or suspended. Don't get it wrong. What transpired in that press conference room was real. Shador Sanders looked right into the cameras, talked straight to the Cleveland Browns fan base, and told them exactly who was to blame for the loss without ever having to say names. He said that he didn't have enough chemistry with the team, didn't get enough practice time, didn't get to work with the first-team offense, and was kept away from real chances during rookie minicamp and training camp. He also said that it was impossible to build timing and trust with receivers when he was only practicing with janitors and throwing next to trash cans instead of getting real snaps with his teammates. Every phrase was carefully chosen, every word had a hidden meaning, and every answer was a subtle but clear jab at Kevin Stefanski and the coaching team that has been holding him back since the start. Sanders could have said something like, "We need to execute better," or "We need to work harder in practice," when questioned about how frustrating the defeat and the offense's problems were. Instead, he got right to the point. Time on task. He stated, and this is very important to understanding what he meant, that it's about being in those settings for a long period. It requires time, practice, and repetition. That's not just a random comment about football in general. That's a direct allusion to the reality that he didn't get those reps, didn't get the practice time, and wasn't put in a position to build the chemistry and timing that NFL offenses need to be successful. He is telling everyone who will listen that this loss is not his fault. The coaching staff didn't provide him the tools and chances he needed to succeed. The comment about being sent to the sidelines, throwing to janitors, and practicing near to trash cans is especially bad since it shows how disrespectful and careless Sanders was during training camp and the beginning of the season.
Broncos wide receiver Jerry Jeudy was walking by, and Steve called out to him, and he got a different reaction.
I called out to him because on my podcast, Cut to It, I just talked about guys that maybe have not showed up in a way or in a manner. And so the word that I've used to describe him in the past was a jag, just a guy.
Just a guy.
When I saw him, he's playing well. I wanted to say to him face to face, like, hey, I know I said some things in the past I probably shouldn't have, and I'm sorry. That's what I wanted to say to him. His response, Mike Robb, was ninja.
Ninja?
Yes, I'm using the word ninja. I'm just using the word ninja. I don't mess with you. And it was a curse word. And so I was like, all right, and then he repeated it. So I'll say it again. I'm sorry that I said you were a jag, just a guy who's an average wide receiver they use a first-round pick on that isn't doing anything. I hope today that you actually show up in a way that you haven't showed up in the last couple of years since they drafted you. So if you ever got a problem with Agent 89, I'm sorry.
While other quarterbacks were getting first-team reps, working with the starting receivers, and getting used to the timing of live practice situations, Shador Sanders was basically being kept away from the real offense and treated like he wasn't worth the time and money spent on coaching and practice. That's not how to make a franchise quarterback. That's how you mess one up. Kevin Stefanski said during training camp in the preseason that there was a real competition for the quarterback job in Cleveland. He informed the press, the fans, and probably the owners that every quarterback would have a fair chance to win the starting job. But Sanders made it very apparent in his post-game comments that this was a blatant fraud. There was never a real race. Sanders never really had a chance to show what he could do with the first-team offense. There was never a fair way to evaluate. It was all a show, all fake, all meant to offer Stefanski an excuse for the choice he had already taken, no matter what transpired in real life. Right now, on the field, you can see the effects of that dishonesty. Sanders is being asked to run an NFL system, build relationships with receivers, analyze defenses, and make split-second judgments, all without the practice time and repetitions that are necessary for a quarterback to grow. It's like asking someone to do surgery without letting them go to medical school, or expecting a pilot to fly a plane without ever having been in a cockpit. The way things are set up for failure is so clear and wrong that it comes close to being coaching malpractice. When Sanders was asked directly about the failed throw to Jerry Jeudy on the first series, his reaction was quite telling. He said that he needed time to figure out the speed and timing with his receivers, to grasp distance and travel, and to figure out passes based on how well he knew them and how often he did them. Then he responded, "It was just calculated off," which is the most important part. It was just that. It was merely a bad shot. That sounds like he's admitting that he threw the ball wrong. But pay attention to what they really mean. He says the math was wrong because he hasn't thrown to Jeudy enough in real games to know how fast she is and how she does her routes because he hasn't had enough practice reps to get the timing right. That's a really kind way to say that the coaching staff made a terrible choice. Sanders is basically arguing, "I missed that throw because you didn't give me enough time to get to know these receivers." And that's not my fault. It's the coach's fault. He's in charge of the specific throw, but he makes it very obvious that Kevin Stefanski and the decisions made by the organization that kept them from being properly prepared are to blame for why the throw was missed. The best part of the whole news conference was when Sanders said that it wasn't a microwave thing and that it would take time for the offense to get used to him. He remarked that as athletes and teammates, we need to be able to get along and feel at ease with each other in any situation. It takes time. This team isn't going to be like a microwave. There will be some sparks here and there, but it will take time for everyone to get on the same page and build that chemistry. That comment is doing more than one thing at once, and all of them are complaints of how this group has helped him grow. First, he's setting realistic expectations by admitting that success won't come right away because of the situation. Second, he's telling fans why the offense doesn't seem to be working together and why so many plays don't happen when they're supposed to. Third, and most significantly, he's saying that training camp, the preseason, and those essential weeks when quarterbacks and receivers create the foundation of their working relationship should have given them the time they needed to develop that connection. He is showing the main flaw in Kevin Stefanski's method of developing quarterbacks by saying it requires time and then saying that time wasn't given. Sanders went even farther in his critique when he talked about how players weren't always on the same page and how they weren't always consistent on the field. He said, "A lot of the time when we're passing, we're not all looking at the same thing. Some guys aren't where we saw them in practice, like who lines up where if you put Jerry on this side or that side. All we have to do is be comfortable and make sure everything is the same." That's a quarterback talking about an offense that isn't being coached well. The players don't know their roles, there's uncertainty about alignments and responsibilities, and the level of preparation and attention to detail is not good enough for NFL football. When receivers aren't where they're meant to be, when there are questions about alignments, or when the quarterback and his pass catchers aren't seeing things the same way, that's a problem with coaching. That shows that they didn't practice enough, weren't ready, and the coaching staff didn't perform the basic things needed to make the offense work. Sanders is doing a great job of being diplomatic with this information, but the message is clear. Kevin Stefanski is to blame for this offense not being well coached or ready. The question concerning the fourth down play calls was especially intriguing since it showed us how Sanders handles these media situations without getting into trouble. The reporter tried to get him to say bad things about Stefanski's aggressive choices on those failed fourth down efforts by questioning if he enjoyed the calls and the aggression. Sanders knew right away that it was a trap question and said, "That's a rude question to ask if I think my coach made a good call." He then changed the subject to being thankful for the chance to play and the trust the coaches had in him. That answer reveals that a 22-year-old rookie is quite smart about politics and the media. He knew that directly questioning play calls would make headlines, hurt his relationship with the coaching staff, and maybe even hurt his reputation in the club. So instead, he avoided the question but made it plain that he knew exactly what the reporter wanted him to say. But here's the thing. He actually attracted more attention to the faulty play calls by refusing to answer the question and declaring it improper than if he had just offered a generic good answer. Anyone who saw the exchange knows that those calls on fourth down were not clear, and they know that Sanders thinks the same thing, even though he wouldn't say it out loud. There is a clear message in the subtext of Sanders' whole news conference. Kevin Stefanski has let him down. He has not been helped by the coaches, and the decisions made about the team during training camp and the preseason have made things even worse for him. He's being asked to run an NFL offense without the time, practice reps, and other tools that every great quarterback gets. It's bad for the organization. It's coaching negligence. And Sanders just made it clear to everyone without ever speaking those words. The comment about time on task being the most important factor that was lacking is especially hurtful because it points out something that the coaches could have done anything about. Coaches decide how much time to spend on practice. Coaches pick who gets to work with the first-team offense. Coaches assess if a rookie quarterback will have real chances to build relationship with his receivers. Kevin Stefanski decided not to offer Shador Sanders those chances throughout training camp. Stefanski decided to keep him away from the first-team offense. Stefanski said there would be a serious quarterback rivalry, but he really didn't mean it. And now those choices are directly causing the offense to not work and losing games. Browns fans should be very angry about what Sanders said during this press conference. Finally, their team has a quarterback who can really play, lead, and be the long-term answer at the position. But coaching choices that don't make sense are actually holding that quarterback back. By an organizational strategy that puts safeguarding the coaching staff's past decisions ahead of helping the young quarterback grow, and by a head coach who would rather stick with his failing plan than acknowledge he was wrong and change course. People in sports media use the term coaching malpractice too loosely, but it really does apply to what Kevin Stefanski has done to help Shador Sanders grow as a player. When you have a talented rookie quarterback, the most important thing is to give him every chance to improve his connection with his offensive weapons, every resource, and every rep. That didn't happen in Cleveland. Instead, Sanders was pushed to the side and restricted from getting enough practice time to create the timing and trust that good quarterback play needs. Then he was thrust into games and expected to do well, even though he hadn't had the chance to prepare. When you compare how other teams have helped rookie quarterbacks grow, Cleveland's way of doing things looks even worse. The Texans put C.J. Stroud on the first team right away when he got to Houston. They also gave him coaching help and made sure he had the best chance to grow. The outcome was that he won the Offensive Rookie of the Year award and made the playoffs. Bryce Young was given every chance to grow when he moved to Carolina, even though the team was having problems. He had every rep he could get and every resource the team could offer. When Anthony Richardson was in Indianapolis before his injury, the Colts made it apparent that he was the starter and based their whole plan around helping him grow. Cleveland didn't do any of those things with Shador Sanders. While pretending there was a competition, they never gave him a fair chance. They kept him away from the weaponry he would need to get along with later. They lost important time throughout training camp and the preseason that could have been used to lay the groundwork for success. And now they're pretending shocked that the offense isn't working together, that the timing is off, and that the chemistry isn't there. It's almost funny if it weren't so bad for a young quarterback's growth and career. Sanders' comment about needing to be able to trust his receivers and view things through the same lens is especially powerful since it shows a quarterback trying to build something without the right tools. Quarterbacks and receivers learn to trust each other by throwing the ball over and over again, watching film together, seeing different defensive looks and coverage schemes, and practicing in diverse locations. In a game, you can't just flip that on like a light switch. It has to be built up over time with hard work and practice. Kevin Stefanski took that time away from Shador Sanders, and now everyone can witness what happened on Sundays. The media trying to get Sanders to explicitly criticize his coaches shows how desperate they are for drama. But it also illustrates how clear Sanders' real message is to anyone who is paying attention. He doesn't need to mention that Kevin Stefanski messed him over directly, because every answer and comment about not having enough practice time, not getting enough reps, and not having enough chemistry makes it very clear that he did. The fans, the press, and most crucially, Kevin Stefanski, all know it. Sanders just warned his head coach without being disrespectful, and that's a great balancing act for someone so young and new to dealing with NFL media. Sanders had to call out a reporter for asking a disrespectful question about whether he liked the fourth down play calls. This shows how difficult it is for him to deal with the media. The media wants to stir up trouble and make headlines, and they want to cause drama and conflict within the company. Sanders knows that giving them what they want will only make things worse for him. So he's threading the needle by being honest about the challenges, but not giving actual quotations that may be used against him or his coaches. It's smart, grown-up, and exactly how a franchise quarterback should deal with these kinds of things. But the message below is still bad for Kevin Stefanski because it shows how dishonest the story about the quarterback competition is. If there was genuinely a competition, Sanders would have been on the first team. He would have had chances to throw to Jerry Jeudy, Harold Fannin, and Isaiah Bond during training camp and the preseason if the assessment process had been fair. If the coaches were really attempting to find the best quarterback, they would have given all of the candidates the same amount of time and resources to get ready. That didn't happen, hence the contest was bogus. The procedure was unfair, and Stefanski never really wanted to give Sanders a fair chance. The effects of that dishonesty will last far longer than just this season. The most important time for a quarterback to improve is in the beginning of their career. The habits, timing, and confidence gained in those initial few years can have a big impact on the rest of your career. Stefanski may have hurt Sanders for years to come by taking away important time for him to mature during training camp and the beginning of the season. Young quarterbacks need to have good experiences and chances to improve their confidence via success. They also need to create trust with their receivers in low-pressure practice settings before they are required to do their jobs in games. Sanders was denied all of that, and we can't tell what will happen in the long run. Fans of the Browns who are watching this press conference should be calling for Kevin Stefanski and the rest of the coaching staff to be held accountable. In the most polite way possible, their first-year quarterback just told them that he wasn't given the tools and training he needed to do well. He said that the offense's problems with chemistry and timing are directly related to not having enough time to train and develop. He showed that the quarterback battle was always a fake. He did all of this while still being courteous to his coaches, taking responsibility for his own performance, and staying calm and professional. That's how a franchise quarterback acts. That's what it means to be a leader. That's the kind of character and maturity you want in your quarterback. And it makes Kevin Stefanski's failure to help and develop this player even worse. If you have a quarterback who is this skilled, mature, and smart about the game, and you intentionally stop him from getting better by making bad coaching choices and dishonest evaluations, you are committing the worst kind of organizational malpractice. Cleveland needs to make some big changes to how they help Shador Sanders grow if they want to move forward. First and foremost, he has to start getting most of the first-team practice time. No more sharing time. Stop pretending that there are alternative good possibilities. Stop preserving Kevin Stefanski's ego by making excuses for his past mistakes. There is no question that Sanders is the quarterback. Support him, give him everything he needs to succeed, and build around him. Second, the coaches need to make Sanders spend a lot more time with his receivers outside of team practices. Individual route work, timing drills, situational throwing sessions, and anything else that helps the quarterback and pass catchers get to know and trust each other. That's how you get the time on task that Sanders said was missing. That's how you get everyone to look at things the same way. That's how to construct an offense that works well. Third, the coaches need to be held responsible for this season's failings. Kevin Stefanski made a mistake by not giving Sanders a real chance during training camp. He lied about how he handled the quarterback problem, and he hasn't done a good job of helping the young quarterback grow. That needs to be recognized. We need to learn from this and make improvements so that it doesn't happen again. Finally, the Browns need to give Sanders better offensive weapons and more reliable pass catchers. It's not okay that Jerry Jeudy leads the league in drops. It's not okay for receivers to not be where they should be on routes. It's neither fair or logical to expect a rookie quarterback to do well when his teammates are letting him down. Cleveland needs to get real #1 receiving talent, improve the offensive line to give better protection, and make it possible for Sanders to become the quarterback he can be. What Shador Sanders said at that news conference was brilliant. He told the truth about the company's problems without being disrespectful. He criticized the bad choices made by his coaching staff without using exact statements that would have made things more dramatic. He was in charge of tactics, but Kevin Stefanski and the coaching staff were to blame for his lack of growth. And he handled it all with calmness, maturity, and political knowledge that many older athletes never learn. Fans of the Cleveland Browns should be happy with how their young quarterback did in that press conference. But they should also be very angry at the coaching staff for letting him down so badly. They have a franchise quarterback who is worth building around, but that only matters if the company is serious about helping him grow, supporting him well, and providing him every chance to succeed. According to what Sanders said after the game, that hasn't happened yet. The question is whether Kevin Stefanski and the Browns will learn from these mistakes or keep making them. What do you think about Shedeur Sanders pointing out that Kevin Stefanski didn't give his team enough time to practice and prepare? Was it okay for him to quietly point out the coaching staff's mistakes? Should the Browns terminate Stefanski right away for hurting the growth of their franchise quarterback? This is the kind of issue that needs open and honest conversation and true accountability. Please leave your unedited thoughts in the comments below. If you're as mad as I am that Sanders is being set up to fail, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more honest Browns coverage, and press the notification bell so you never miss when we tell you what's really going on in Cleveland. We are Keep the Vision, and we will inform you exactly what's going on with your football club. Keep asking this group for more until next time. Shador Sanders and Browns fans deserve it.